Aloha. Madam President, I can't think of anything that I could say in addition to that, so would you put your remarks as if they were my own and I'll sit down?
So ordered.
And now the rest of the story. Senate President Donna Mercado Kim, Lieutenant Governor and former Senate President Shannon Tsui, Governor Abercrombie, U.S. Senator Brian Schatz, former governors, mayors, Chief Justice, all the distinguished people here, and most importantly, the overburdened taxpayers of the state of Hawaii. Aloha. On behalf of the entire minority, I bring greetings. You know, Senate President Kim, I must tell you that you are only the second Senate President that I kissed. No, not you, Shannon. And the first one has now been elevated to Congress. In fact, I'm sorry that Congresswoman Hanabusa is not here, but she's probably watching Bill O'Reilly. So, there's a great future ahead for you, Senate President Kim. Thank God, Danny, thank God this body will once again have daily prayer in its opening sessions. We appreciate it. Because if ever there was a time that elected officials need supreme guidance and should call on a higher authority, it is now. We the people, that's how the U.S. and Hawaii constitutions begin. And we need to remind ourselves, as elected officials, of the significance of these words. These are serious times demanding our best ability and swift action. And all of us just stood up and we pledged to defend these constitutions. And by the way, listen, that's the voice of democracy outside. Our right of free speech, and our right to demonstrate, and our right to address our government. It seems that many of our residents, perhaps too many, believe we have lost our way and forgotten those limited beginning words. As the government becomes more dominant in our daily lives, there are negative consequences to this. A divided population, voter apathy, less confidence in us as elected officials, and more social and financial problems. People in Hawaii are tired of being pushed around while told everything is fine. They know better. Last month, the national emphasis was on the so-called federal fiscal cliff, involving excessive government taxation, spending, and debt. Actually, we fell off that cliff months ago. And in Hawaii, more accurately, we face the looming financial poverty as the government attempts to take away more freedoms and income from its citizens. Forbes magazine describes Hawaii as one of 10 death spiral states. Forbes and other watchdog organizations cite overtaxation, rising tax burdens, increased state debt, massive unfunded liabilities, and an exodus of private employers as dangerous for investors. Nothing has really been resolved yet on the federal level, and while both sides continue to fight over the debt ceiling, fewer Americans are tuning in because they believe their elected officials are not accountable or transparent, and they don't know where to turn. A nation and a state without accountability and lack of consequences set a dangerous precedent. We need meaningful change that must provide consequences for bad behavior and poor performance in government. Last year, we tried to run roughshod over established environmental hearings procedures by granting government special and favorable fast-track powers. We tried to fool the public into believing that initiatives such as the Public Land Development Corporation were good for them. PLDC should be repealed, not amended. We don't speak honestly to our constituents about the true costs and the impact of major states our state, major projects that our state has embarked upon, including the heavy steel rail on Oahu, the $2 billion undersea electric cable, wind turbines covering neighbor island landscapes so that they can power Oahu, and the costs associated with contract overages, add-ons, missing money, and wasted funds. We must respect taxpayers enough to be truthful to them. As the President said, during Senate investigations of Hawaii's only taxpayer-supported state university, hearings demanded not by government officials but by concerned taxpayers and UH alumni who put their trust in the Senate, we discovered our excellent university is being run by bureaucrats who have not been responsible with taxpayer funds. The problems go far beyond the $200,000 lost in the so-called Stevie Wonder concert blunder. The UH administration showers high salaries and enviable perks on administrators while lacking oversight of its hordes of public relations personnel, incompetent attorneys, and old boys. At our university, there is high cost and low achievement from our administration. What are the consequences so far? Nothing. Those involved with the Wonder Blunder and other careless spending still hold power and are paid well. They hope we will forget. We will not. There must be consequences for their actions. Our Office of Elections is charged with only one duty every 2 years: organizing and holding fair, efficient, and affordable elections for every voter. They booted it, not just last year, but for several years. Not to print and distribute enough ballots, thereby denying a citizen's basic right to vote, an easy enough task, is criminal and should be punished. But instead, in true Hawaii tradition, the same people continue in office. This must be changed. They need to be replaced. Our judiciary has undergone a new initiative, but problems still exist. Preference still appears, at least from the outside, to favor criminals and not restitution of victims, especially our children. Hawaii's State Department of Health has badly mismanaged state recycling and several other programs they are responsible for. It's not just me that's saying that. It was the legislative auditor. Yet we do nothing to stop or curb these practices. As I predicted previously, Hawaii's outlays for welfare and social services would exceed annual expenditures for government education. Late last year, that became a fact. Hawaii now spends more on welfare and social service programs than we do in educating our children. Yes, there are people who are in need, but we should not be supporting those who choose not to work or to be financially responsible. Leading the nation in food stamp distribution and top of the list with homeless are not badges of honor for our state. Our proposed new state budget would increase spending over the next 2 fiscal years by 8% and 11% respectively, though there is not economic growth to support this increase in government. Many are in denial about the consequences of continued spending growth. The Senate minority again will develop and put online an alternative approach to the budget. Ineffective programs and personnel must be jettisoned. Now, there's a new expensive taxpayer-subsidized proposal to put our 4-year-olds in government schools. And the governor promised he's going to wrestle me on this issue. But the $30 million early education program, which is widely supported by politicians, nonprofits that will gain financially, unions, and a well-funded lobbying effort, is not beneficial for our state. The proponents ultimately want the state to pay for care for children beginning in their infancy, not just starting at age 4, which is the initial program this year. I oppose this further intervention by a government that has not been able to provide even an average education with existing programs and billions of dollars of annual subsidies in the government schools. We would only be preparing these children not to succeed, but to start earlier in the government bureaucracy. And to my friends in the labor unions, come on, guys. Compulsory public unions in Hawaii flaunt their power and they're out of control. The HGA sees the most favored nation clause, guaranteeing them every possible unearned benefit that is bitterly unfair and burdensome to Hawaii taxpayers. The United Public Workers, they refuse to take a 5% pay cut, the same as all other state workers, without any consequence, and now are being rewarded by an arbitration panel with a 6% raise. I, for one, will strongly oppose the $8 million so-called emergency appropriation to reward the UPW and call on my colleagues to stand up as well. The Hawaii State Teachers Association, which previously signed a contract agreeing to drug testing and other requirements during a previous administration, refused to comply, and there were no consequences. Now, the HSCA also wants more money and benefits. For the keiki? I think not. It's about money and power. Senate President, he previously called attention to and presided over an effective investigation of unwarranted and costly public employee overtime. But the issue has not gone away. And in some cases, it, and despite income pensions overtime allows, is even more rampant today. Whistleblowers and good, hard-working public employees, state and county, come to me seeking help to end bad practices. Many times their supervisors fail them. We need to end these practices and support hard-working employees while weeding out the others. Now, our attention in the first days of the 27th legislature will not be on providing consequences for poor behavior and performance. Most likely, we'll light up the debate on marijuana, roll the dice on gambling, and try to make it easier to die by suicide if you escape abortion. On a side note, we should all do everything possible to help free our neighbor from the Big Island, Roger Christie, from unjust federal imprisonment and loss of civil liberties on the grounds that he is a dangerous criminal because of his marijuana position. We need to focus on the priority items in our community, especially our economy. Hawaii's economy has not turned around. The visitor industry single-handedly is propping up our dismal performance. But if we adjust current data, the record-breaking arrival and expenditure numbers, we are looking at the same visitor levels as occurred in the 1980s. Construction, retail, wholesale, manufacturing are all doing poorly, no matter what some pundits would like you to believe. Just talk to our people in these industries to learn the truth. Then do everything possible to improve our business and economic climate. The loss of our very special senior Senator Daniel Inouye has enormous consequences, social, political, and fiscal. He is already missed. His absence, however, does allow for political changes and more independence. His legendary power probably will be fought over. The estimated $450 million plus that he brought to this economy annually and his political and fiscal clout are gone. Hawaii had many years to prepare for this impact, but we didn't. We need to search for other private market economic alternatives to boost our economy and not for a single politician to fill this void. Hawaii can attract many new employers who provide jobs and tax revenues if we listen to those in our business community and repair our business climate. Instead, Hawaii government continues to be hostile to business. The recent loss of the Tesoro refinery and regular closure of old-time benchmark businesses are just symptoms of a government that rewards its own incompetence and risky government investments of public money while punishing hard-working private risk takers.